kind of wish I don't know. I kind of wish I had those sort of numbers anyway.
What, Joe Rogan's?
Yeah, Joe Rogan numbers.
I mean, you got the hair
Yeah.
and the eyes
I don't know. You
and the
got any
podcast.
ideas for the show tonight or what?
Nah, you?
I
What do
got
you got?
nothing. I got nothing.
Oh, it takes me back some 25 to 30 years.
Theme music's playing. We're just trying to figure out what we're gonna say.
Yeah.
What do you have today? I don't know. I didn't do any prep. Did you do any prep?
Yeah. I almost hit a deer on the way to work today, though. So let's talk about that. Okay, there.
All right. I think this is episode 375 of the podcast series, and we had the epic 100 that we did together. Do you ever
like 9 hours or something ridiculous like that?
3 hours and 18 minutes or something like that.
And that's longer than our shows were.
Yeah.
Were we a 3-hour show back then, or were we 4?
We were 4, but I mean, the amount of talking we would do wasn't that much.
All right, keep it short, keep it tight and bright.
Lots of rock, Daniel, little talk.
So much.
Are you in Vernon, BC?
I'm outside of Vernon, BC. Yeah.
Nice. How you been?
Country. Pretty good, I guess would be the standard response to that. But it's been an interesting year. Both Janice and I, my wife and I, were working in film for the last 3-4 years, and the writer's strike there really kind of mucked everything up this year. So we started looking outside of film, and now I work in construction.
So I was really interested in that because I saw that you were working like on the set. So I guess the first question people would ask is, did you meet anybody famous?
Well, yeah, I guess I'm outside of the outside the business now, so my non-disclosure agreements can lick it. We worked with, I guess the biggest name would have been Scott Eastwood. Yeah. Clint Eastwood's son, Scott, who looks somewhat like a young Clint, and he's quite handsome, and he has the eyes, and he occasionally uses dad's kind of lilt in his voice, and he's throwing a line out there. Yeah. That's a terrible Clint Eastwood. Not a ton of real famous big movie stars. Hey, the who? The what? Frankie. The German chick. Oh, I can't even remember her name. I don't know.
If you can't remember the name, that person wasn't famous.
Famke Jensen.
Okay.
Who actually is somewhat famous, but we had a less than memorable time with her. Most of the actors that we worked with, because we're in the BC interior, in the Okanagan, we don't get the huge movie stars that your Vancouver and Toronto film sets usually see. So a lot of it are Canadian actors that a lot of people really haven't necessarily heard of. You might get one kind of bigger name out of the States that comes up that you may or may not have heard of. But for the most part, it's sort of up-and-comers or Canadian actors that are a lot of Hallmark movies, that kind of thing that we did here. Smaller budget movies for the most part.
What was your job on set?
A bunch of different jobs. Before COVID, in fact, I worked the last film that was filmed in Kelowna before COVID in early 2020, and that was I was a production assistant, a PA, which is just the lowest man or woman on the totem pole. You watch the crew parking lot to make sure nobody's breaking into cars. You stop people on the street from them walking into your scene. You empty garbage cans. You carry propane tanks. You set up tents for various reasons on and around set, lay carpets down on floors to protect homes that we're using, things like that. But really, you can't do a movie without PAs, but they don't make much money and they don't get a lot of respect, but they're very necessary. But it was just a kind of a first job to get in. Because as it turns out, one of my clients at one of my trivia nights here in Kelowna was the commissioner of the Okanagan Film Commission. So we started talking after I had left radio in 2019 or after radio left me. And he said, hey, just try film out. So I did. He got me in with that. And then COVID hit right the week we wrapped, the day we wrapped, everyone was talking about this new disease and it looks like we weren't going to be filming anywhere anymore. And then everything shut down. And then when we came back, both myself and Janice were COVID control officers and safety officers, where everyone hated us because we had to enforce masks on set and all of the things that go along with COVID. And we did a bunch of movies basically in the early part of COVID. And then in 21, I could kind of see an end to those departments coming and moved into different departments. I did props. I was a props master for a movie and a props assistant for a few. I did set decoration for a bunch of movies, as did Janice. Also transportation, driving both people and stuff around to and from Vancouver. I mean, there's so many jobs in film that if you get in, you can kind of bounce around till you find what you like. If you like long hours and neglecting your cat and family.
Strong recommend. Yeah, strong recommend. I mean, you looked like you were having fun, so I thought you were doing that. And I thought, oh man, that looks like a lot of fun. I know
it is fun. It is fun, but I mean, the hours are crazy and the money is okay. I mean, it seems like you're making a ton of money because you work 12 to 15 hours a day, every day of the shoot. And so your paycheck at the end of each week is pretty big, but you've also worked an inordinate number of hours compared to a normal person. So, but it is fun, absolutely fun, and absolutely difficult, and at times absolutely horrible as well.
What was the station that let you go? Was that Power 104?
Yeah, now it's called The Lizard in Kelowna, but it was Power 104 at the time. They decided to go with a young, cheap kid out of Saskatchewan who could be coerced into hosting things for free every night of the week if they wanted, because he's young and he wants in, kind of thing. You know how we were in our first years of radio, right? You would do anything because you wanted to be a DJ.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, we need you to go host this thing we're doing at a thing. Yeah, sure. I'd love to get up in front of people and, be a famous DJ and blah, blah. I mean, you would do all this stuff for free and not realize that you're eating up many hours of your personal life for no money, for both the radio station and the client to make money off of, and for you to really basically get nothing out of the deal. So
I wanted to do it.
I was no longer
people.
Sorry.
Well, I wanted to do it just so I could be in front of people, so people might remember my name and listen to my show the next day.
Well, that's the general idea of, that promotional aspect, but you would do it for free, right? At first.
Yeah. Or you get paid cash from the bar and then they don't put it into the books, and then Revenue Canada comes after you.
Does that happen to people? Okay,
good. Just checking.
Yeah, that hasn't happened again. Okay, I claim all my money.
Audit for you. You get an audit, and you get an audit, and you get an audit.
There was a year, it was late 90s in Edmonton, that there was one bar chain that got audited, and it turns out that they had been keeping secret books of all of the radio DJs that they'd been paying cash to for hosting various things in their clubs. And I think this was a just in case they got audited kind of a thing. So they said, oh, we paid all this money to these guys. And then all of the radio DJs got audited, and some had to pay back every dollar they made.
Yeah. It was fun getting rung up in that. You get an audit, and you get an audit.
Yeah.
That
was brutal.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyhow, so do you miss radio?
I do, actually. Funny enough. I mean, because I'm back to being a listener again. I mean, before I was ever a DJ, and when I went into radio, I considered myself a listener first and a radio employee second, and always, felt that I would bring the listeners in on what was happening. Because what I always loved about radio was like K97 in the early days in Edmonton, in the late 70s, early 80s when they launched. There was Sharky was the morning producer, and Mark Summers.
Mark Summers, yeah.
Yeah, and he and Bruce Kenyon and Robin Allen and all those guys, it sounded like there was about 15 people coming and going from that studio every morning. And even though you'd be listening to the content of what the guys were talking about, and the women, not to discount because there was various women in the show, that gang would just be so interesting that you'd want to know. You'd almost put yourself in there. And who's that other guy talking in the background? God, he's funny. Who was that guy? Who's that guy? And it really sort of kept my attention that way because it seemed like there were so many people in there. And I miss creating that sort of listener interactive, as Eric Samuels used to call it, theater of the mind sort of picture for the listener, but then also telling them what is happening and being honest with them about what you're seeing and what you're doing. There's a way to do both, I think, to manufacture some things, but also to be honest about what you're doing. I think we did that pretty well, you and I.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were gold in the afternoon. Not so good in the morning. We were not good getting out of bed.
No, which is funny because now, I'm up early now every day for my job. So I got to drive at a mediocre show. Nice. I've got a fairly, about a 45-minute drive to work every morning now. And I'm up at, 5:30 in the morning and it doesn't really bother me. I prefer now to sort of get my day going earlier as opposed to back in the 90s when we were up closing bars. That was the problem, is that we were out closing bars down the night before on White Avenue and then expected to show up at 5 a.m. in the studio or 4 or whatever horrible time they wanted us there.
The only good thing about doing the morning was when it was over and then we would go play golf.
Oh, I just thought you were going to stop it at that. The best part was when it was over.
Well, sometime around 10 o'clock, there would be a general announcement between you and me that we'd hit the wall.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, sometimes before 10.
Yeah. So one of us would just yell out, "Wall." We hit the wall. Yeah. Another brick in the wall. Wall.
I do. But as you asked, I do miss the work. I miss the people. I miss the connections I had with listeners. And actually right now I've been sort of dropping my name back around in Edmonton again to see. And there are not a lot of live radio jobs available these days. I mean, you've seen it, so many stations now are they're taking shows from other markets and having them record shows for them. And just the overlap has eliminated a shitload of radio jobs that you and I used to both have,
Yeah. And I think the evening show at one count, and I think the Edmonton Journal did an article on this, there was only 2 live people on the radio in all of Edmonton, which is one of the most competitive and busiest markets in all of Canada.
That's in the evening. You're talking
about. Evening, yeah, the evening show. Yeah. There's only 2 hosts.
Yeah,
one of them was on Now, and I can't remember who had the other one. It might have been Cruise FM, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I know, and even talking to Yukon Jack back at the Bear. I mentioned this to him back in the spring. I said, yeah, thinking about maybe coming home. My folks are both in their 80s now. I'd like to be sort of more around them. They live in St. Albert. So I'd kind of like to be back in the market, back home to be around them. And I thought, well, why not apply in radio and see if maybe anybody wants an old gray former rocker to come and add something to their radio shows. But he even then indicated, he said, man, it's so thin, like just the market for DJs is so narrow right now that your chances of getting a job are pretty small. So, I've also talked to some film producers in and around Edmonton, and the problem with that is that they get tax credits for hiring locals or people from within their own province and do not like to hire people from other provinces. So until I move there, I don't have a chance of getting the work there. So there's kind of no crossover in, hire me and I'll move there. It doesn't happen. So I can't get film work and there isn't any radio work. So,
or you want to time your move to the end of the year to make sure that you fill out your tax return in Alberta.
Fill out my tax.
Yeah. It's you
is that an annual thing? Janice, the taxes are annual. You have to do taxes every year. Honest, I thought it was every 10. Oh, shit. I guess I can't move to Edmonton.
See, it's stuff like that made us number 1. Actually, but more often than not, number 2.
Often 2. We were okay with 2, though. right? Be everybody's second favorite. Then there's no expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, ironically, I think the people who are number one, I think we have to ask them. If you want a job in Edmonton radio, you got to ask them right
Yeah.
now, right? You got to ask those people who beat us
I wonder who is number one right now in Edmonton.
for radio. I don't know.
Is it probably fucking country still?
Um,
Because, Jesus.
well, I think for the longest time it was Now Radio.
I have seen in the last, I don't know, decade, because I still, follow radio and the ratings, even out here, there's like one country station. I don't even know where the hell it's located. And it does so well. The ratings are always good for the country stations in Edmonton. Everybody loves the country stations. Why? I will still go to my grave not understanding why people like the same song sung by many different people about whiskey, women. And that's not just, I'm not making that up. I listened to a country song last week just to prove the point. And whiskey came up. Oh, whiskey rhymes with frisky, by the way, now in that song. Whiskey and frisky.
Convenient.
It's still all terrible.
Still not a country fan, huh? I'm with you. I'm not part of it. Don't care much for it. I get it. It's not that good.
Well, and you notice like the CFL is using country music in their TV commercials.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Well, I've wondered about this, and rock has done a terrible job at promoting itself. There's very few bands. I mean, Shinedown's a great example. That's a band. They show up, they go to the radio station, they say thank you, they meet all their fans. Yeah. There's just not enough bands like that who do it. But you look at country music awards, they get on stage, they thank the program directors, they thank radio. They're all kind of family, and they work together. And rock bands never did.
So it's kind of like an incestuous thing with country, and then
I mean, Matthew Good wanted to fight us all the time, right? I mean, it was weird.
Yeah. I hope he's doing okay now.
Yeah, I love the guy. And he just didn't want to. He just didn't want to do an interview at 4 PM with us, and I don't think I'd want to do one with us either.
That is the only interview I've ever walked out on.
Yeah, that was good. What, you pointed at me? What'd you say? He's all yours.
All yours. Can't do it. Cannot do it today.
All right, that was good.
Go ahead and roll a joint while we're talking here. Nobody can see this, right?
Yes, we're live.
Well, it's legal now, so shut your mouth.
Well, we'll find out if we keep our channels.
What do you mean?
I don't. I told you, we're live. Like we're on the internet.
It's not illegal on the internet to smoke a joint.
No, but we're like you understand? Have you ever downloaded a podcast?
No. Well, I've been listening to actually during the writers' strike, the Writers Guild of America strike, listening to Strike Force 5.
For
sure.
You
have a lightning thunder sound effect?
No, I don't have any sound effects. I should though.
You know what Strike Force 5 is, right?
Yeah, it's all the talk show hosts who got together to chit chat, and I was a little perturbed. I think one of them didn't have a microphone. I'm like, dude, you should have a microphone. It's a podcast.
Oliver, he's very quiet. Hi, Spook. My cat's here. Yeah, it was Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, Stephen Colbert, and John Oliver. I think they did 11 or 12 total podcasts where all the money that they raised would go to support their staff during the writer's strike, which is a very noble thing to do, I think. And all of their advertising was from all of Ryan Reynolds' companies, Aviator Gin and Mint Mobile. And Reynolds would do his own ads and kind of comedically poke fun at the five of the hosts. They're very funny if you enjoy any of the late night shows, because I kind of missed those shows, but I didn't during the strike. What I found is that I think I was kind of going too far down the rabbit hole on American politics.
Question: Is your box of weed blocking the microphone to the broadcast?
Well, I don't know. Is that better now?
Yes, that's much better. Oh my god!
It might have been.
Why did it not sound good? Well, because his box of weed was blocking the.
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding.
Anyway, if you what I found is that even though I like to know what's going on in the world, I always have. I've always followed news. My first jobs in radio were in news. That it was a rabbit hole that you can fall all the way down. I knew too much about American politics on a day-to-day basis every day because I would watch a lot of those TV shows, a lot of those late night shows, and they're all liberal and they're all liberal leaning.
Yeah.
So they're making fun of all the right people, and in my mind anyway, on in the States. But I didn't really miss the shows because I didn't miss knowing all of what was happening in American politics every day. I didn't miss knowing what Biden did today or what Trump did today or any of that stuff. But I did miss the comedy of those guys. So I've listened to more podcasts in the last month. Now that I'm working in construction, I get to just listen to what I want all day. And actually, they're starting to grow on me. Maybe I'll download one or two of you've done a couple of them, right? Like this is the fifth one you said, the podcast you've done?
Well, you and me?
No,
I do 3 podcasts, but this one's been going for nearly 8 years.
Oh, I see years.
Years, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations. You might be onto something there.
I think so. I think it's really taking off.
Is it? Yeah, it might be good.
Yeah.
You remember Jane Morrissey, our old sales pal from the Bear?
Machine Gun.
Yeah, we were just talking to her yesterday, and she's really all about how podcasts are the next thing, that they're the thing.
Well, if she'd like to come and sell some podcasts, I've got lots of inventory.
Yeah, what are your other podcasts, by the way?
I have another podcast, which is called the Podcast Super Friends, and that's where 5 of us sit around and just talk about podcasting. Very nerdy stuff.
Huh.
Technical stuff, how to good microphones, bad microphones, how to become famous.
Sounds boring as shit. How many followers on that one?
Hardly any.
There you go. Okay. And then what's the other one?
The other one is called You May Also Like, which is sort of a kitschy, quirky little thing where I have conversations with people, much like this one, but it's not about podcast and radio. So, for instance, I had Mercedes Nichols on to talk about snowboarding. I had Natalie McLean talk about wine, and
who's Mercedes?
She was in the Olympics, snowboarder.
Canada?
Yeah.
Did she win?
Right. She lives in the same province as you, dude.
Did she win?
She did not.
Well,
she got a concussion.
What?
Yeah.
From snowboarding?
Yeah. When you do that half pipe, right? You go up in the air and you come down.
Yeah.
You come down in some terrible ways.
Jesus. So was she talking all crazy?
No, she was. No, she wasn't crazy. But it was long road back. So, but I think she's participated in multiple Olympics. She has her own podcast now.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean to offend her. I really did not recognize the name though. But I'm so far removed from following much in sports anymore as well. Anyway, so.
Well, you and me both. Like as people get older, we prune our sports tree. So we remove things from our sports life.
Yeah.
So what have you removed since we were back on the air 20 years ago? 25? How long ago was it? A long time.
NFL.
You don't watch NFL anymore?
Give a shit about the NFL.
Watch this.
Why not?
Watch the CFL still somewhat.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. What else don't I care much about? Well, you know what? During COVID, I didn't really care about any of the sports. Funny enough, it's almost like not missing the late night shows. It was not missing what seemed at that time to be kind of just pointless. It's like, wow, how much do we need to watch other people work out and cheer about it and wear shirts about it and all of those things? And I kind of really didn't, like, for a while there, I didn't care about any sports. It was more about the world needs to survive and heal. And then the whole everybody hates each other thing, we need to heal from that. And now, though, I'm kind of getting back into a lot of the sports again, like the Oilers. I'll follow and watch them again. Still, I've always enjoyed watching the Oilers and CFL, but none of it really means that much to me anymore. I still like baseball. Disappointed in the Blue Jays this year. They backed into the playoffs, I thought.
We got a...
We do put golf on weekends. I like watching. There's a good batch of Canadian golfers right now.
We've got a call here from Drew Dalby. Drew Dalby wants to know, does Calgary still suck?
Wait, we take calls or texts? How does that work?
There's a text at the bottom of the screen.
Can we talk to Dalby? Hey, Dalby. What? Oh.
Drew Dalby is watching, I guess, from Kingston, Ontario.
Huh. Calgary is actually the home of my children and their children. And I have a hard time hating on Calgary like I used to hate on Calgary because I got 5 grandkids now. And I love all of them, and they're all in Calgary. So Calgary does not suck.
But
Stamps and Flames suck hard, but Calgary does not suck.
So we would probably drop that joke about, the best view of Calgary's in the rear view on the way to Edmonton.
It no longer applies because Janice and I are so excited to be driving to Calgary now. When we go to Calgary, that it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Welcome to Calgary is a welcome.
Are you familiar with this legislation, this Bill C-18 that is squashed?
Is that the Mooch and War widows getting free bus trips?
No, that's not the one. This is the one where the news links are banned on Facebook and Google. And I'm just wondering, as a guy who is into the news as much as you were, is this something you're paying attention to, or could you give a shit about it?
Well, I found that the problem with a lot of the hey, here's my cat. There's Spook.
Hi, Spook.
Hey, Spook. Say hi to half a dozen people who are watching this. There he is. People who come to our house don't get to see him because he's afraid of everyone.
So this is the only way.
Yeah, this is what my cat looks like, everybody. That's Spook. See you later, buddy. And what the hell were we talking about? Here.
I was asking about like the news links and Facebook and Google and Bill C-10 or 18.
CTV.ca, CBC.ca.
Yeah.
I've got those links in all of my, like one click and I'm there to see the latest news.
Yeah.
So it was convenient before, but what I was finding is that any story would go up there that had anything to do with politics, and then all of a sudden just the flame comments. And I don't know how bad I need comments with my news. So I'm okay sourcing my own news out. It's not that hard to do. And everybody was blaming Trudeau. Oh, this is Trudeau's fault. But there's a bunch of countries around the world that did the same thing, and it has to do with Facebook and Meta making a pile of money basically off of the work of those people who go out and work at CTV and CBC and all those different news outlets. So they wanted Meta to have to pay them. That's the way I understand it. So it's not anyone's fault except that Meta is greedy and wanted to make the money. So I don't know, just find your own links. It's not that hard. Do your own research, people.
And you said you're off the NFL.
Yeah. Basically, I got on the NFL in the late 80s in Grand Prairie because I was a sports director of a radio station. And my boss said, well, you're the sports guy, so you run the NFL pool now. So I had to run the NFL pool, so I wasn't going to run a pool and not be in it. So because I started gambling on it, then I cared about the games and I would cheer for a team. And that's sort of how that progressed into giving a crap. But nowadays, I just don't care. And I still find in all sports across the board, the wages, the salaries that these players make are just so stupid. Just beyond any comprehensible amount that seems reasonable for people to make for doing any job, I think.
How did you do your office pool picks when we had an office pool? You had a unique way. I just can't remember what it is.
Oh, I tried a bunch of different shit. Never worked though.
Yeah.
I did it. My ex Donna, she won it one year up in Grand Prairie by picking, I think it was places she would rather shop.
Yeah.
The city she would rather shop in, or that was a different gal that won it in the office, and Donna won it by picking the cities of the two she'd rather visit. That was it. And she won the whole thing that year.
Awesome.
So, me, I don't know. I tried to look at odds and I was terrible at it. Didn't matter.
So let me ask you, because you brought it up a few times in your socials, predominantly on Facebook, I gather.
Yeah.
But that's sports betting, and how you have no time for it, can't stand it, it's bad, can't believe it's legalized.
Well, I mean, as we talk about the fact that, I wasn't going to run a pool without betting on it, but I mean, that's, $10 a week or 100 for the season, whatever the hell it was. It's not a lot of money. It's not losing your mortgage kind of money. Hockey pools and drafts, and we all go in those. They're cheap. They don't cost you that much. They're fun. But it reminds me of cigarette ads and liquor ads, which, eventually everything's regulated. Cigarette ads were pulled altogether because they didn't want people, promoting something that's going to kill you. This is the same thing. It's an addictive, we all know that gambling is addictive. And so you've got these mega stars, your Jamie Foxxes and your Connor McDavids, your Austin Matthewses, and so many big names that are out there basically telling people, hey, you can get on here and have the best time of your life, and without saying it, lose your mortgage and lose your house and have your life ruined if you get hooked on it. And people do, and they put these tiny little, hey, know when to stop and all of that bullshit. But you've got mega stars that we used to say, you got to look up to these people, or they've got to be examples. So McDavid's got more money than he'll ever need. All these people have more money than they'll ever need, and yet they're accepting more money to promote an addiction. And it seems like there's zero regulation on it. I just want to watch the game, and every commercial break, there's at least 2, sometimes 3 different betting ads that come up, ramming it down my throat that I should be getting on here and parlaying my bets and gambling my money away. And I just think it's disgusting, is what I think.
So you're not opposed to gambling. It's just the ads. It's the gambling ads that.
Yeah, I mean, I gamble once in a while.
Okay.
Every now and a blue moon, we'll go to the casino and drop $100 or whatever, or make $100. So, and it's, again, we know it's an addiction, but Janice and I have it what we would call under control. I think it's been a year since we've been there. I don't know. We don't go all the time. Once in a while.
If you and I were doing a show and the traffic tag was going to be a sports gambling website, would I be reading that?
I suppose so. I mean, I would morally have a problem with it. That said, though, I mean, we used to, wasn't it what was it? The AGLC, Alberta Gaming Liquor Commission?
That's right.
Didn't they used to sponsor some shit on our show? Like it was like weather or traffic or something, brought to you by WGLC. Buy your Lotto 649 tickets this weekend, 9 million. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it was. Lotto 649 used to do ads on our show. Is it the same? I don't think so. Because again, nobody goes out and buys $500 worth of lottery tickets on a night.
But you could win $500 worth of lottery tickets with the Bear when we played a contest.
Right, there was that. What was that? Yeah, that's right too. We gave me a lot of lotto tickets. But
that was I think we were spinning a wheel of some sort.
Yeah.
And there was 4 results, and one of them was a trip to Vegas on a bus.
Oh, that I got to host.
Like I understand plane to Vegas, but here's a bus to Vegas.
Yeah.
With a stop in Utah.
You were on the other bus, right?
I didn't go. I said I don't do bus to Vegas. I do plane to Vegas.
Who the hell else was on there?
Vav.
There was Rob Vavrick, who was our producer at the time, and went on to be our program director. I know Maggie was there, and a number of our staff, Margot as well, was there.
Yeah, Margot Radcliffe.
But it was like a 19-hour ride or some shit like that. And there's this one couple that drank so much, and we were trying to tell the bus driver shortcuts to get there that they know of, and they kept bugging him, and he finally asked us to get them to quit bugging him. On the way home, he got bit by a spider, and we had to stop in a hospital in the States for 2 hours while this guy got treated for a spider bite. It's just the longest frickin'. Never bus to Vegas with a bunch of drunks.
I knew that was going to be a problem.
Like, but I was one of the drunks, though, so I didn't, at the time, I didn't care. It's fun to me then, but long trip.
Well, you haven't had a drink in a long time.
No, I still have the occasional drink now. I mean,
okay.
I've got Addictivo tequila. In fact, I was going to have one while we were doing this.
I thought you swore that off after Nazareth.
No, Nazareth made me quit entirely drinking for 2 years.
Okay.
For those that don't know, so what year would that have been? 96, Six.
96 probably.
Yeah.
But I just remember like it was like 5 to noon or something, and I walked. You know, we had to do news 5 minutes sooner,
Hmm.
and I came in and looked at you, and you picked your head up. It was uh, like you came back to life.
I
You
was
did,
still shit faced.
yeah, I know. Well,
So Janice and I got off their tour bus at sunrise
oh boy.
because they had played just up the road at Johnny C's, I think it was then.
No, it
What was it?
was
What was it called after Johnny
American
C's?
Bar,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the American Bar. So they played there, and I was introducing the band that night. And so I would always, before we introduced bands, go to the band if I could get to them or their manager, whoever, and say, is there anything specific you want mentioned in your introduction? Or do you want me to just get up there, shut the fuck up, say the band name, and get off the stage? What do you want? I want to make them happy. So I go to see Nazareth, and they're at the front of the bus. Their driver and sort of roadie stops, and he's like, who are you? I'm like, oh, Jake Daniels. I'm going to introduce the band. So he goes through the curtain to the back, and then I hear this, Jake Daniels. Well, get him in here. So I go in, and and they're like, Jake Daniels, what a great name. You'll have to come back on the bus after the show for a drink. So sure enough, after the show, Janice and I get on the tour bus right outside the bar, and there's weed going around in a circle and a bottle of Jack going around the circle, and everybody's got a beer as a chaser for the Jack Daniels. They love my name because they drink so much Jack Daniels. I thought Jake Daniels was hilarious. So we stayed up all the rest of the night until sunrise on their bus, which at some point moved to their hotel, the Snot Rocket, just down the road.
Yeah.
We didn't even know it had moved. We got off the bus expecting to be still at the bar.
You had to walk back to your car.
Yeah. Well, looking for a cab at that point. We were so drunk. And no, we're at the hotel. So we're like halfway home. So we got a cab home.
Oh.
And that was about, let's see, that would have been summerish. So probably 6 in the morning. And then I had to be on the air at noon with news, or 5 to noon with news. So I got to sleep about 5 hours, got a ride to work from Tyler, from our son and producer, and was still drunk when I was writing the news. And I had very short news lines. Figured I could get through if I had like 2 lines per story, 4 stories. It's almost a minute. Boom, good enough. I get out of here. I could hear myself slurring the first line of the first story. And decided to wrap it up after that story. So I did one story and said, weather's next. Boom. Go to commercial, come back, weather, sunny 20, it's 12. Okay, good. And then that was it. Then we went for lunch. I sobered up. We did the show after. Everything was fine.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. You were hungover.
Well, I was hungover, coming out of it, but I could take it back then.
Yeah.
Now I couldn't even fathom a hangover these days.
No.
Who's
got time for that?
When was the last time you had a hangover?
This morning.
Really? Where'd you go last night?
Went to a Rumors Comedy Club just up the street and saw Sugar Sammy, who's going to be coming to Edmonton, by the way.
Water. Yeah.
Water. Well, I got some water here too. I'm going to need some more here in a sec.
Yeah.
But I saw Sugar Sammy, who is going to be coming to Edmonton and also
I've heard
Vancouver.
of Sugar Sammy. Who is that?
He's a comedian from Montreal. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
But he's doing a bilingual show right now, so you should have a little grasp of French if you're going to go see this one. But he'll be back.
Oh.
Well, he does.
I can laugh in French.
He's famous in France.
Yeah.
He's famous in France. He's a TV star there. He's famous in Quebec. He's famous, in across Canada, U.S. He's funny, and he got his. I remember he was hanging around Chaume in Montreal in 2004 when I was there. He was coming in and doing bits on the morning show. He filled in once or twice. I had him on the air in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
He now uses Winnipeg, I think, to sort of kick off the Canadian tour to warm up.
Hey,
he's got a good rapport with the city.
Do you get him to do part of his act when you have him on now? Because I always found it awkward when we would interview any stand-up comedians.
Yeah.
They were a very difficult interview, right? Because
So
you'd always kind of just say something and kind of wait for them to just say or do something funny. And it was more, in their view, like an actual interview instead of an act. And I always felt that we should have had them do 5 minutes of their act and then interview them. And we never did that. Just wondering what you're doing now with guys like that.
Well, I mean, he's a friend. So we talked for, I think, about an hour and change.
Yeah.
And we talked, the interview was, I think, 2018, 2019. Still good. Go listen. It's in the podcast you may also like. It's, I mean, all the
Does he
stuff. Does he
do like any kind of set humor, or is it just you two bullshit?
He's just a funny guy. Yeah. So he will, he'll, and a lot of his show is very radio like. So like his act worked on the radio. And it works on stage. So when he's on stage and you see the clips that he does, he's doing interaction with the callers, really, which is the audience.
Yeah.
And I watched him last night. He had 5 people sort of set out. What do you do? Where are you from? What do you do? And he would be able to point and laugh at people and bring them back into the bits. It's kind of wizardry. And you understand if you just, search social media for Sugar Sammy in order to, to see how he does it. It's very much what good radio is all about. And I think he was sort of raised around the radio, and he saw radio and he saw how it worked, and brought that into his show, and it's very interactive. Very interactive.
Well, maybe I'll listen to your podcast with him.
Thanks.
Are you on Spotify?
I am. I'm everywhere.
I mean, I knew you were on Spotify. I'll check you out on Spotify there.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts.
You make any money off this shit yet, or no?
Totally.
Are you like making your living off of podcasts?
Check this out. We're going to put some ads right here.
Really? Do I get to watch them?
No, it's not on YouTube and live. We're just going to continue on with the show. But in the audio version, I'm going to drop some ads in.
Oh, cool. What are the ads for? You might as well give them a free plug now. What do you?
Well, I know if I talk about it now, then people will have already heard ads, and I'm still talking about the ads.
No, but who are the sponsors? That's all I want to know.
Well, I'll tell you what, who supports the show? It's a great question. So there's a radio tool called Blurv that helps you do your show prep, which you and I would have never used. Blurv. Oh. That's right. It's a tool to help you do your show prep as well.
Show what now?
It's show prep. It's what people do before the show, like the work that happens before to bring to the show to do the show.
Oh, like
it's like homework for radio.
Preparation? Is it short for preparation?
Preparation H. That's right. That's what it is. Huh. It's about as exciting.
When people do this, like they spend their own free time before the mic opens to do more work to be ready for when the mic opens.
Yeah, we had a show. We had I think a show prep service at one point that was advertising with us.
Huh. So Blurv is one.
CHR prep sheet. Logic, who do the ratings. Nlogic.ca.
No liquor companies or no weed operations.
Nothing like that.
No.
I mean, it's a radio audience, so
it's very non-traditional. The advertisers.
Yeah, who I really thought should be a good advertiser on this is like Sony or Warner. Like if you want to get into the ears of radio programmers, this is what's new and on your desk this week. I always thought that would be good, but the music business has changed so much that that's not important anymore.
Yeah. I used to, what I miss is our old music meetings at the Bear.
Oh yeah.
So you want to tell everybody what those were like, or shall I?
Let's hear your version.
Okay. So the Bear in the early days was the one place that I respected for the way that our music programmers respected the opinions of everybody that worked there and others who happened to be wandering by. So we would get once a week, there were 3 or 4 different record companies that would drop off compact discs with either the singles or the full albums of new music that was coming out. Feel free to jump in if I'm wrong about any of this, Matt, but it's about once a week they would stop by with new stuff, right? And so we would have a meeting at lunchtime. Anybody was invited from the office. It could be a sales rep. It could be an intern. It could be a general manager. It could be a DJ. It could be a news guy, a sports guy. Marty.
Speaking of the general manager,
Speaking of the general manager at the time.
Who just put up he just chimed in on Facebook saying there hasn't been a good song since 1975, which is
Right.
the exact same thing he would say every week
In those
in
meetings.
those meetings. And then he would leave the room. That's it. That was his contribution. And he just, there it is.
So everyone, and we would have, I think, most days there would be at least 10 people, sometimes 15. Sometimes there weren't enough chairs in that room. Everybody wanted to come in because there was a particular song or band that they wanted to hear the new release from. But we would play it and then go around the circle. You're 21 years old and female. What do you think of this song? I hate it. Okay, Jake, you're 28. You're male. What do you think of this? I fucking love this song. I want to hear it again. And it would go around to every person, no matter what age, what sex, didn't matter. Your opinion matters, and they would. I mean, ultimately, Eric and you or Eric and Ron Wheeler had the ultimate decisions. Or Jeff Woods, Batty on what would eventually go on. But I think it was always truly with the input of all of the staff taken into consideration. And I appreciated that. And I really liked that about our meetings. And they were funny too. If everybody hated it, it would get launched out the door. People would have to watch. They almost had to put up caution signs on both sides of the door because bad CDs would get thrown out in the hallways.
Greg Diamond with Launchy, but he eventually he started to yell incoming.
That's true.
And then it would go out, and then
sometimes they'd break.
The poor record rep, Ron Hosehead Harwood. He said, well, I'll bring another one next week. And he did for 15 weeks. And then eventually Harvey Danger, Flagpole Sitta, gets on the air.
Yeah. I remember that we had a pretty big impact on Godsmack and their popularity in Alberta and Canada overall, I think.
They just played Winnipeg here last night.
Did they?
Yeah. So I went to the Sugar Sammy show instead.
Oh, right, you're the Sugar Sammy.
But one of my kids, is Godsmack any good? Well, let me tell you, my friend.
Because what was this? Wasn't it? What was the song? Was it the first hit?
Well, Voodoo.
Right.
Voodoo. Right. I latched onto that one, put it on the air early,
but it got enough plays by us, and other stations started to notice, and they started to play it, and it had good popularity. I think because
I think at some point what happened was there was a flip with the order of the singles in which they were going to release them, and I think Paul Jessup who ran Universal, I think at the time, said we're getting a lot of traction with this, and I think they put it out as a single. It was going to be, I mean, it was already a hit in Boston anyway at WAAF and whatnot. But we
were Canadian visionaries.
Yeah.
But again, that's all of the people who were in those meetings that all thought, wow, there's really something here.
And of course, Nickelback, who actually I think came to a couple of meetings featured their own record in the meeting, and I think we added it at some point.
Hey, Positive Mike's Brewing. I still like Nickelback, although they put out this awful country song this year. Have you heard that?
I have not heard it. I heard the latest single though.
Oh, there's one of there's some good stuff out there. San Quentin is a pretty good song. Typically old Nickelback sounding, but they put out one that was country that I really, really did not like. Again, not a country fan, and it just sounded like normal country shite. So
I think they probably hosted a Howler in 90, like they opened up at the Howler in 90, was it maybe 97? Perhaps that they were there. And anyway, we had him in early.
Oh, Positive Mike's, what you're referring to there was actually, they opened, Nickelback opened for Big Wreck at the Rev downtown. And I went to that show and got to meet both bands that night. I had never heard either one of them, but Nickelback got up there and absolutely killed it. And that was where I said, man, those guys are going to go big. And that was quite a ways before How You Remind Me came out, I think. Like they played a lot first, and then that song broke them. They jumped the shark, if you will. And I got to introduce them at Coliseum. And
2002, actually. So 2002, that was the day that I left.
The night of that show.
Yeah, I say that with sadness.
I was pretty heartbroken, but then I got to go introduce Nickelback in front of 20,000 people or whatever the hell it was. That was okay.
Trivia question: who opened the show that night for them?
For Nickelback? Hmm.
I know
I should
this.
know, but I don't.
Jerry
Who was it?
Cantrell.
Uh, ah,
Jerry
Jerry
Cantrell
Cantrell.
from Alice in Chains.
Hmm. I think I was like backstage while he was
Yeah.
playing. Yeah. We were backstage, I think, with Nickelback before Cantrell. So, or while Cantrell was playing. So it didn't really, that happened a lot. We would miss a lot of opening acts because we were jacking around, having drinks, getting stupid
Okay,
backstage.
give me your top 3 backstage good times. I'm gonna. By the way, I want to throw out Corrosion of Conformity with. Yeah, I had fun with them.
Hmm.
They opened for Metallica.
Okay. I wasn't there. Was
I
I
don't
there?
think. First of all, I don't think you were the biggest Metallica fan, were you?
No, no. Still, I'm not that huge of a top fan.
Yeah.
Um,
See, Metallica would have been my people.
backstage, I mean, we had so much fun with the headstones. I would have to say, there was a show in Red Deer, Junk House and Headstones both played it, and I mean, we were at the time we were tight with all of the guys in both of those bands.
Yeah.
Janice and I and some other friends as well, and other radio people, and so we would go, as you know, Red Deer, a few different places to go and see them. And man, it was just one of those sort of nights where everything came together, and like all the bands hung out together and on buses and off buses and backstage and front stage and on stage and in the crowd, and everyone got just so pleasantly plastered that night. I guess the memory I remember most is us having to carry Tim White back onto the Headstones tour bus to put him to bed. He's got these big old army boots, and he was still kind of squirming a little bit and talking on him to carry him. There's 4 of us to carry him onto the bus and put him back to bed. And it was just such a fun shit show. Backstage at Woodstock '99 with Jane Morrissey. We got to interview the Tragically Hip there.
That's right.
We got to see Big Sugar down there as well. This is all obviously before all the riots took place. There have been some really good shows about the riots at Woodstock '99, by the way. I recommend people watch them if you can.
So I was going to ask you about that because I remember.
Yeah.
Why were you, how come you got to go? Or did
It
you
was
just go?
it was a contest thing. It
Okay.
was another contest. I was hosting, we gave away X number of trips to Woodstock '99 that year. And it
And
was,
so what I saw the documentary.
yeah.
It was really good. What did you think as somebody who was there and I guess running away from the fire at the end?
It answered a lot of questions for me, actually. I mean, because just because you were there doesn't mean you know all of what the hell was happening. I mean, it's such a big place. This is a U.S. airfield, an Army airfield, right? So imagine the length of a runway at a U.S. Army airfield. I mean, that is how big of a span that this place was, and stuff was happening over there and over there, and you don't know, and it was so hard to understand where to go. We were close to the stage when the fires broke out on the final night there. And so we had to navigate with a lot of the other crowds as people started to realize we should get the hell out of here around these great big bonfires that had formed using torn up pieces of fence and stage and whatever else people get their hands on, and trucks were burning. And so we had to navigate our way back to basically to our campsites and maybe to get our stuff and get the hell out. We weren't really sure. And so there were certain areas of the campground that were untouched. And we were very much in the center of a lot of tents. So our area, we were around the one tree in this massive field because we got there first. And we kind of stayed there in that. And a lot of people came to us, to this tree, and to us trying to get away from what was happening on the outside perimeters. And it was terrifying. Nobody knew how bad it was going to be. And then the next day when we left, you would walk through other parts of the campground where there was big black patches where tents used to be that burned, and walking past where the back loading areas were, where there was all these burnt out trucks. And we still had no idea of the scope of what had happened there until, you started to see it on the news. But even then in '99, you didn't have Facebook. You didn't have a lot of the, social media, the things that we have now that you'd be able to find out instantly what was going on. It took a while to really learn it. And so these shows that you're talking about have really sort of crystallized and answered some questions for me as to what happened there.
And Limp Bizkit, did they carry the blame that day as much as It was presented in the documentary.
Nah, no. What the blame should. I mean, it didn't help. Their choice of songs, like wreck stuff, was probably a bad choice. And even Red Hot Chili Peppers, Fire, maybe that probably didn't help either. But it was the organizers, and basically it comes down to the whoever produced the show. The security was terrible. The security wasn't terrible. They weren't paying their security. In the first day that we were there, security guards are telling us we haven't had a break in 12 hours. We get no water, no food, and they don't even tell us when they're going to pay us.
And it's
So
being held on concrete.
yeah, and half of them quit after one day.
Yeah.
Security. So they didn't have enough security to cover. And secondly, the fences that they put up around the perimeters were basically 4x8 sheets into a frame that had been held in with maybe 6 1.5-inch screws, each one of them. You could go up and kick a 4x8 sheet of paneling off the fence.
Yeah.
And that's how the Hells Angels rolled in with their bikes in the middle of one of the shows. They drove through 250,000 people to get to the front of the stage. I don't know if that got shown in the documentary, but there was probably 15 or 20 bikes that rolled through the crowd, parting the crowd to get up to the front.
And Korn?
Korn, I think they were early in the show. I think they were day 2. I don't think anything happened with Korn.
Yeah, it was. They were kind of presented as they were going to be another band that was going to rile things up.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Korn had much to do with any of that stuff. I blame the organizers. The fact they were gouging people in water. They were charging $7 a bottle for bottled water. This is almost 25 years ago now.
Yeah.
And the bathrooms, everything went wrong with the bathrooms, and it was just gross. It was a fire festival in the making.
That's a good one.
Mike, they did not run out of water and food. They overcharged on the water because it was becoming a commodity. Food you could still get, as far as I remember. But again, I may be sort of remembering more from the media aspect of it, because we had passes to get us back into the media areas where there was always some food back there. So really, you may be right. They might have run out of food.
Speaking of food, are you vegan?
5 years, baby.
How's that going for you?
Feel great. I mean, food wise, and my guts are always good. I don't have any stomach issues, and my energy levels are still good. I get enough protein out of fake meats and the proper vegetables and things. I was just talking to a guy about that today. A young guy. He said, "Man, that's a hard commitment," and it is. And what I miss most is cheese. Really, really good cheese.
So yeah, because that was one of our go-tos for our pre-game meal, which was the bread bowl of soup, which was cheddar mushroom.
Wasn't it?
Cheddar chowder mushroom.
Mushroom cheddar chowder. Yeah.
In a bread bowl.
Yeah, mushroom cheddar chowder at the what was that place? The Cheesecake Cafe. Mushroom cheddar chowder and bread bowl, please. Less bread, more soup. I always ask him to scoop out the bread bowl more to get more soup in there.
Yeah.
It was so salty and delicious. Man, that was good. But it would have been a cream base, right?
Yep.
And the bread probably would have had some kind of dairy in it.
I wonder if you can replicate that with beans.
That's just not the same. I mean, there's a lot of adjustments.
I hope we're not talking about this, because this is a shitty audition. If we need to get back on the radio, we're talking about this.
Well, I don't know. We told some pretty good stories about shit that happened back in the 90s.
You still have all your teeth?
Hey,
you still have all your teeth?
Hell no.
All right.
No, I got issues. I mean, you can see the front. My grandson said, "How come your teeth are so yellow?" And I realized that I drink too much tea without doing any tooth whitening. But I'm missing molars all over the place up here. It's only a matter of time.
All right. I'm good. I'm hanging in. Teeth are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't take a puck of the teeth yet and lose some teeth?
I don't. You know what? No.
You still playing hockey at lunch?
No.
Smell my gloves. Smell my hand. Smell my gloves.
We would rent the West Edmonton Mall ice. We'd play over lunch and come back, and my hands would smell like hockey gloves.
Yeah.
And then I would run and find the promotions
or
person,
me,
Heidi.
Heidi
I said,
McMillan.
"Hey, Heidi, smell this." And she goes, "Your hands smell like pee and hockey gloves."
Oh, they were so disgusting, man. And you would always shove them at me right after lunch.
Yeah, I will tell you that I still play soccer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh, welcome to Wrexham. Love it.
it's good, huh?
Love it. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have. I hope there's another season coming.
Yeah, it started season 2.
Ah, you see, I don't know this stuff. I'm
Yeah,
so
it's
out of
on.
it.
I think tonight is episode 4 of season 2. And you know what happens in season 2 ahead of time, right?
I do. I do.
We know that Wrexham is promoted to the
I well,
next
you
division.
can't spoil that. That's a
Well, no, everyone.
spoiler.
It's already human history.
That's
It's
a
already
spoiler.
happened. No, but it's already happened.
Yeah, but you just spoiled the show.
I didn't spoil the show.
You spoiled the show.
I gave a sports result from 8 months ago.
No, but you tied it to the show. Some people don't. Some people
I'm
aren't.
giving a
Don't,
sports
if they
result
wanted
from
the sports result, they would have got that 8 months ago. Yeah. Now you've given a spoiler. You gave a sports result from 8 months ago, which is today considered a spoiler.
Yeah, well, whatever. In case anybody had the Oiler game being taped tonight, I got to check the final score on that because it's over. While we've been talking, they finished that game. They were up 6-1 after the second period. They better not have blown that game.
By the way, about that thing about the spoiler, I don't believe that for any. But I just wanted to be contrary so we could have a bit to fight about.
You know what, though? I really enjoy the show. I've always liked Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
It crosses every boundary known to man in their topics on each show, but funny as hell. And Rob McElhenney is brilliant in it. And I like pretty much anything Ryan Reynolds has ever done as well. And so the two of them doing what they have done, and really it has revived a city in England that was pretty down.
Yeah.
And it's done a lot, I think, for a lot of different people. And they're both very charitable as well. So I love everything about it. And even though it's about soccer, there's a lot of 0-0s and 1-0s and 1-1. Whole lot of effort for no apparent result, according to Lemmy.
That's right.
It's a great show.
That was one of the best quotes. That was Ron Weslowski, who went to Lemmy, the late Lemmy from Motorhead.
Yeah.
Asked if he was. I think he asked if he was following Manchester United, who were having a great season back then, or do you watch football? And he said, "Don't care much for football. It's a lot of effort for no apparent result." And he's right.
I've used that line so many times in my life since then because I still think it's funny as shit.
But speaking of 1998 and Manchester United, watch the Beckham thing on Netflix.
Yeah?
Yeah, very good.
What do I learn there?
You'll learn about David Beckham.
I don't have to see his dick in a locker room or anything, do I?
No, nothing like that.
Because after Ken Linsman at the Heritage Classic, I can't take that again. I can't.
So that was 2004?
Is that when it was?
Wow, when did that happen?
Heritage Classic, the first one, I thought it was
2004.
Sure. 04. Should I tell a story?
Yeah, I didn't even know this was a thing. And by the way, I was doing guest appearances on your show with you and Bryn Griffiths and
Right. Okay, so
I was in Montreal.
Right, you're already gone. So the first game was the old timers game, right, with Lafleur and Gratz and Messier and Semenko and all those guys. And so they were at Clark Stadium's facilities for their post game, for their locker room and stuff. They didn't have them in Commonwealth. They bust them over to Clark, and that's where the media got them. And that way people weren't swarming because nobody knew, public didn't know that's what was happening. So we kind of had our own little private space there. So they let the media in after the game. Some players are showering, going to the showers. Some are coming back from the showers. And I see Linsman there, and he's got a towel around his waist. And I'm like, hey, Kenny, wouldn't mind getting a minute with you. If I can wait till you're done your shower if you want. And he's like, no, it's fine. We can do it now. And so there's me, and then there's a table in between us, one of those big plastic tables that you use to put drinks and food on in the backstage, and then Linsman on the other side of it. And he's right by his locker. So it's going to move this back a bit here. So I can kind of show you how it went down. So I'm talking to him and interviewing him, and he's answering my questions. And then at some point, I don't know if he got bored a minute in or what, but he does this and he puts his leg up on the table, and of course his towel flops open. And then there was another flop after that, and I found out why his nickname is the Rat. It's not because of his nose. It's not because of the way that he played. It's that other thing.
All right.
Honest to God, man. It was like a baby's arm holding an apple.
Speaking of which, you remember we took a phone call once and somebody was describing, you know what I'm going to say?
No.
The premier at the time, Ralph Klein.
No.
I saw Ralph Klein coming out of the gym.
Oh, it's
coming out of the shower.
Yeah. Oh, no. He talked about that, but wasn't that around the time that they had a picture of Klein in the Edmonton Sun, and he was working out, and he had on those weird 80s shorts, the kind of satiny ones, and one of his testicles was hanging out the bottom of the shorts. You could see it in the picture in the newspaper.
Yeah.
But it was like halfway down his thigh.
That's right. Giant balls on that
I'm 57
guy.
now. I get that. Yeah. I miss it all. I miss
what's something we did that would get us canceled today?
Something we did then?
Yeah, what's something that we did then that if we did it today we would get canceled?
Well, probably some of the contests that we were forced to take part in.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like some of and more so I think what the morning show was doing than us. I mean, our biggest things were the Monday Night Football bets, right?
What did we do?
That started with you and I, and then went on to Sled Dog, didn't it?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think it was more so maybe with Sled Dog Michaels, but nothing that we ever did was too edgy in the afternoon. But the morning show is doing stuff like eat someone else's barf or finger your mom. Like there was this like awful contest ideas they were coming up with at the time. Awful.
Guy eating a bread and butter sandwich of his leg hair.
Wasn't it pubes?
Yeah, that was our show.
That was our show?
That was our show.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would get us canceled, but would people want to hear that still these days? Does anyone still do that?
They would not. There's nothing you can't find on YouTube now.
Right. But is there anyone still doing that kind of content in radio anymore? Or nah?
No. I think once Jackass came along, all that stuff disappeared from the radio.
It's all pretty milquetoast now, isn't it?
Yeah, I try not to be too down about radio. I think there's still a lot of value to it. I just think the business of radio is broken.
Yeah.
And I just remember we had this conversation about music, right, years ago, especially when the internet and then Napster and then Art Alexakis yelled at me from Everclear because I suggested Napster might be a good thing. And then he
which really became Spotify later.
Yeah, it kind of more. Yeah, eventually that became the platform later on. And I guess some would argue that Spotify is not all that great for artists as well.
It's terrible for artists. They make so little money off of that, but they also get promoted. It's a way to get promoted, and then now their bread and butter is back into touring again. And now there's
I'm sure they're thrilled to be spending like their 70s touring.
No, but there's different ways to tour. If you look at what Taylor Swift just did. $90 million or something like that at the box office the first weekend of her concert movie.
I mean, she's the exception. I mean, nobody else can go tour because she's touring. She's vacuuming up all the money.
I'm just saying that was a movie of a tour show.
Right.
So if you get enough followers and enough popularity, maybe that's the next thing is that you record one concert somewhere in super high definition with drones and 80 different camera angles and all high definition stuff.
Yep.
And make it a movie and make your money that way. Who knows? The world is changing every day. Blows me away.
Yeah, I remember thinking that music's not broken. The business of music became broken.
Well, just different. It's so fragmented now. Yeah.
And now I think one of the things that I don't want to sound like I'm yelling at the cloud here. Old man yells at cloud. But, you know, all the hooks to the songs are up at the front because you got to have the hook play early so you get 1 minute in so that you get paid by Spotify or whatever music streaming service. So, I mean, yeah, and where are the guitar solos? And where are the guitars? Yeah, I kind of miss them. I kind of miss
Yeah,
them.
I know. I wish we could go back to the 90s. I'd have a full-time job then again in radio, so that'd be cool.
You want one?
I do.
Cool.
Is this our resume? Because I
I
didn't really dress up. I wore my McJesus shirt tonight because the Oilers were playing instead.
I got my Acadia University shirt on because Matt Muller, the college years, lives on.
I think I still have a tie. Anybody still wear ties for interviews even anymore? Or is that like out the window now too?
I haven't put a suit on in years.
I have a Christmas suit that's just shows deer shagging.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, it's green and red.
Yep.
It's got a bunch of little images of deers doing it. But that is the only suit that I still own.
I think people would probably listen to this and think, why don't you just have a podcast? I mean, maybe podcasts like are where you and I would wind up doing a show.
What are we going to talk about?
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
we're just blown an hour and 11 minutes and 11 seconds on bullshit here without knowing what we were going to talk about. Would we have to do that? What was that word you used again earlier?
Prep.
Prep.
Prep,
Would we
yeah.
have to do prep for a podcast, or could
Clear-
we just,
It would help. I probably.
or could we just show up at 2 minutes to 3 in the afternoon and go, hey, what do you got?
And what you got? That's the best line. Like you come in, like hit the button, and then like the music starts to play,
What do you
and
got?
here we go. And then I turn and look at you. I go, "What do you got?"
And neither one of us some days had a damn thing to talk about.
And do you remember we were forced to do prep? We were forced to do prep, and we had the prep, and we got halfway through the show, and Greg Diamond came in and said, "That's not working. Just
no more prep for you two." Yeah.
all
Didn't we
this-
tank? Didn't we tank on purpose that day though?
We were totally tanking.
We tanked on purpose.
Always.
Oh, you want to make us do prep, eh? This is going to be a terrible, terrible fucking show.
You guys were better when you didn't do prep.
Oh, it could have been good with the prep, but we didn't want it to be good with the prep.
There's no prep.
You wouldn't have had time for as much hockey at lunch, and not washing your hands after, and I wouldn't have had as much time to sober up at lunch and make it there in time to be sober for the show. Prep. We'd sit around after do prep.
I'm terrible.
With stinky hands and meal hungover doing prep. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm terrible with prep, I think, because I would overthink it.
Yeah.
In the moment, I would think, I'm not sure this is working the second time. And I think that's why we came up with the rule, let's not over talk to the guests we were going to have on the show in case they would start to talk about the funny things. Right. So let's get them on the air and start talking to them, because they would wind up telling the funny story when the mics are off.
Right.
And
then try to recreate that and recreate the genuine responses is just not possible.
Yeah. The opening show jingle, by the way, was called Drive Time. I think it was Rick Emmett, and it appeared on, I think, a 1991 album. And
was that actually on an album, that song?
I think it was. And what I'm going to do is, for the audio version of this, I've dropped it into the show. On both times where we've mentioned the start of our show.
Yeah, it's just a very 80s rocky. What are the lyrics again? Let the good times are all this time.
It's drive time.
Cranking up
on the radio is drive
time, and then boom, 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 go to this little drum solo bit where we would, in theory, be saying what was coming up on the show today, but because we had no clue what was coming up on the show, we'd usually just say something stupid and then kind of do our first song.
Is that, because that cat is meowing, I now have to give it like a writer's credit or
spooky,
a cast credit.
Yeah, way to go. You get speaking credit. Meowing credit. He wants more food.
Awesome.
You got pets right now?
I don't. I love dogs. I just don't know if I can walk the dog.
Well, I know you can
Probably
fuck
be
it.
good for me to walk the dog, but like if I go away, like where's the dog gonna go?
I know you can fuck the dog. I've seen it in action.
That's yeah. Again, that's where the show prep would normally take place.
Right.
Yeah,
So if we did a podcast, I would continue to be able to swear if I wanted to. There's no one coming in to tell me that I can't swear.
that's correct.
But would someone say you shouldn't swear?
Um, yeah, I don't know that if you should swear or not. I'm not sure it's very helpful to do that. I know that if you do it too much, you're not going to be qualifying for some magical advertising money that might be popping in.
You mean like from Radio Shack or something?
Oh, whoever. There's programmatic ads that can be inserted into these shows.
Yeah.
So
Maybe Andrew Dice Clay's looking to tour, or is he dead now?
I like we used to have all those answers. Let's play Dead or Alive.
Right.
So we would have those answers.
Yeah. Don't know anymore.
Yeah. I was sorry to see Suzanne Summers die just recently, and I remember I think Joyce DeWitt came in on our show a few times.
Huh. Ron, the porn guy, Ron.
Oh God, yeah.
Did we tell this story on 100?
Who cares? Let's tell it again. I'm pretty sure we did.
What's his name? The porn star.
Jeremy.
Ron Jeremy.
Thank you.
You booked him in. You booked him in.
I booked in Ron Jeremy. I had no idea who he was, and it was Orange County Keith Rubliak who I guess flew him into town and said, "You got to have him on your show. You got to have him on your show." And I don't know what it was about this guy Keith. He was very persistent, but there was something about him I liked. I loved his persistence. I said, "Fine, we'll have him on the show." And comes up, and then we shook his hand, and we had him on the show, and it was a good interview.
It was okay. We
yeah.
learned some things. We learned how they turn a guy going for 2 minutes into a guy going for 10 minutes with 5 different camera angles.
That's right. That was your one question. They said, "How do you last so long?" And said, "Well, there's 5 cameras, and 2 minutes comes out to 10 minutes of footage." It's like, yeah.
Anyway, so after, carry on.
He leaves, and then I said, "Jake, smell your hand." And then you smelt your hand, and it smelled, what would it smell like? Pee and hockey gloves.
No, it's worse.
Porn hand.
It smelled like, I believe porn hands. It smelled like 8 different kinds of bad cologne and jizz. Is what we decided that it smelled like. And your hand too. And I said, well, you shook his hand too. You smell your hand. And then you're like, oh, Jesus. And we both went to the can together, and we both were scrubbing our hands, and we could not get it off. It was like trying to get blood off your hands. Or so I've heard.
Yeah.
But it stunk like for hours after. Worst day ever for our hands.
Yeah, that was that was my idea. I take responsibility for that one.
That was our only porn star interview, wasn't it?
No, well, we had a playmate once.
Yeah. Who was that again? Right.
You guys interviewed Mick Jagger.
Kimberly, and her name eludes me, but she was like centerfold 99 or 2000. She's from Vancouver, and her first job was working at Earl's, and then she was in Playboy as a centerfold.
Huh. We had a lot of fun stuff. Mick Jagger interview. Right.
Oh yeah. And then, I mean, I get to tell people like I interviewed Mick Jagger. That's pretty cool.
Then you have to tell them it was on the phone and that he phoned us.
And then he also said, "Well, boys, I think that's about enough."
Because he had to phone 20 other stations because his album was bombing.
Yeah.
That's what that was all about. It was a solo. It wasn't his first solo album.
I want to say it was Wandering Spirit or...
yeah, it's one with the white and blue cover.
Okay.
I think that was Wandering Spirit. And it was not selling worth a shit. So he was doing all kinds of media. And we just got this random call. Hey, Mick Jagger's on the phone. Yeah, right. No, Mick Jagger is promoting his album and wants an interview. think that's how it went down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had one with Ozzy Osbourne too that was quite memorable, where every answer was, "I'll have to ask my wife."
And Travis from
Days of the New.
Days of the New was so high on whatever he was on at the time that he couldn't think, couldn't answer questions. Remember, he said, "My brain, I can't think." And then his guitarist jumped in to answer all the questions for him.
I think what Travis is trying to say is,
I hope that kid's okay. Did he go on to do anything?
he appeared on A&E in Rehab, the Rehab show. So Travis,
did he make it? Did he rehab?
I hope so. Travis Meeks, I think is his name.
That was his name. Yeah.
Yeah. I find myself reaching for, to Google to go find out like where these people are and what they're doing these days.
Doing the Scott Stapp.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the hip grind, the Scott Stapp hip grind?
Yes.
I left his show after 5 songs because I couldn't stand that he was on every lyric. He was grinding his hips at the audience.
I can't believe how much we had to play of Creed.
Creed? Yeah.
Yeah. It got to be a lot. It got to be exhausting.
Mike's having a flashback.
Yeah.
We both are. As we talk more, it just dredges up more old memories of what really was, Matt, a great time in my life. Like the 90s working at the Bear was the sort of pinnacle of my radio experience, and the people that I met there. I'm still friends with all the people that I met there. Honestly, like I still keep in touch with so many people. I mean, not as much as you might, but we're all Facebook friends and check in once in a while, mention here, chat there, comment on a post here and there. I mean, it's nice that we kind of all keep in touch that way, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could all go to lunch. You can ring up anybody and just go to lunch and just pick up from where you left off.
Yeah.
And I can't say that I can do that as well with the people, that I worked with in the years that, moved on after that. Yeah. Maybe that's because I became the boss. And when you're the boss, it's a little lonelier. And
nobody likes you.
Yeah, you can't really form those relationships, as much.
No, it was really, I mean, because, 92, how old would I have been then? Jeez, 20.
Oh, shit. I didn't know there'd be math. I didn't know there'd be math.
I think it was 26, 27 when the Bear launched.
Yeah.
And so, that's a time in a person's life. You're still forming who the hell you are. And it was just such a time, like for 10 years there, that I will never forget. And the people that I met and worked with, I will never forget.
And tell me about your time at sports radio. Because, you had a big part of that radio station, taking off and getting started. And you got to work with Bryn Griffiths.
Yeah.
And I had Bryn on my podcast. We did 90 minutes. And if you're going to listen to like one episode, I want you to go back and listen to the one I did with Bryn. Because I think you'd really, really enjoy it.
Does he talk shit about me?
He says the nastiest shit about you. You should listen just to take notes.
Yeah?
Yeah, you should take notes.
What, on professionalism? Whatever. Look, it's what time is it here? It's 25 after 8 out here. I go to bed at 9:30 now because I'm up so early in the morning. So, guy's got to start preparing himself for bed, right?
Are you announcing that we're ending the show because you have to go to bed?
No, I'm just saying that I'm smoking another joint because I've got to start getting ready to get to bed.
Gotcha.
Helps me sleep.
I'm with you on this. Now I understand.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate that you think it was the best radio around back in the 90s.
Well, it was.
I thought it was pretty good too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, really good. And I kind of missed that form of radio, but if it were on, would I listen to it? Yeah, I probably think I would.
Well, the music was fantastic.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean,
you can get music anywhere now, though.
I always thought we were too Metallica heavy myself.
Yeah.
Other than that.
We were the only place to get Metallica, though.
And so much of it.
And Metallica, though, still gets the crap played out of it on rock radio, even today.
Oh, I know. The stations out here, the rock stations out here still play lots of Metallica. I always thought it was too much. I thought
Is there a Metallica song you like?
Well, I did briefly in the 80s, like the Black Album, right? Which is sort of the
Well,
penultimate.
except it came out in the 90s.
Well, okay, maybe it wasn't the Black Album.
And
This
Justice for All.
It would have been around 1985, 86.
Sure. Okay.
What would have come out then?
And Justice for All was 88. And I don't know.
It was like early Metallica. I don't know. I was still just a kid. I didn't know shit. And I mean, I liked some of those songs, but really what started to grate on me was the vocals.
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah.
It was just a hook that started to really bother me, and I couldn't handle it. I still think solid band, solid music, but just the vocals aren't for me. It's like any form of music where it sounds like the devil is on lead vocals.
Yeah.
What do you call that style of music? With that? What is that?
Metal?
No, it's not. It's like death metal.
Yeah,
Hey?
it's like guar and stuff like that.
Yeah, that kind of shit. I got no use for that.
I didn't. Yeah.
Vocals play a big part of what I like or don't like.
Master of Puppets was 86. Ride the Lightning was 84. Kill 'Em All was 83. That's your Metallica from the 80s.
I don't know. It would have been one of those early ones because this was just after high school for me that I liked a bit of Metallica. So
Yeah.
mid 80s. Not now though. Now I'm old. I still listen to a lot of the bands that we played on the Bear. But what I have learned, and this is where we talk, if we go back to Spotify, is that how Spotify brings up based on what you like, you may like this too. And I have found so many acts that I had never heard of some of them are new and some of them have been around for decades that I am grooving on now that I never did 20 years ago when they were first popular. I like a lot of 90s hip hop, as it turns out.
Yeah, you know what? And my friends liked that, and yeah. I should have liked that. I guess I wish I'd listened to more.
We were too busy shoving rock down everybody's throat in the 90s.
Well, you know what? If there was a radio station in Edmonton that was playing it, I would have paid more attention to it because I knew they were probably going to take some of our listeners.
Wasn't anyone playing?
Nobody was playing that stuff. I mean, there was a top 40 station, Power 92, that was generally number one, but nobody else would play rap. And in fact, I think we can count the number of stations that play urban music in Canada on one finger. That's where we are now. It's Canadian radio is the whitest experience. It's unbelievable. If you listen to it, it is so white, and there should be different sounds. There should be urban sounds. There are formats that are missing. There are cities with 13 and 14 radio stations. You can't find a spot for AAA. You can't find a spot for active rock. There's no urban. Nobody will listen. We can't make money, and instead, it's just a bunch of white music. That's my 2-star review for Canadian radio. 2 stars.
I would like to see it return to listener-based, listener-service radio again with full DJs 24 hours a day. There's one of the big things is that you can't. We used to pride ourselves on our traffic reports on the Bear, right?
Yeah.
We had good traffic. Everybody would phone us with traffic. If something went down, we would have a list some days of 10, 12 different things that were happening around Edmonton. You had good traffic reports. Can't get that now because the afternoon show at this station I listen to in Vernon is recorded by a morning show in Edmonton. Or this midday show is a satellite show that's broadcast across. There's so little live anymore that the listener experience has changed and you don't get what's happening in traffic, what's happening currently with the weather, that there's a fire downtown that you can't get, whatever it might be. Just not anymore.
I mean, I do subscribe to the theory that Waze or Google Maps is going to be able to, take you on your drive home. But what's happened with radio is they began to peel that stuff away. We don't need to do the weather. We don't need to do the traffic. We don't need to do this particular thing or that. And now it's all gone. And what are you left with? It hasn't been replaced by anything of value.
It's very generic, what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite
generic
type
topics of conversation, or inappropriate conversation, like where one company's pop station in Edmonton morning show records the midday show for a rock station in Kelowna. So they're different markets and different things that are important to the listeners. And the stuff that a pop morning duo is going to talk about in Alberta is going to be way different than what a rock listener in BC wants to hear in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of generic BS that I think has ruined a lot of radio.
Can you imagine if we had to do the type of radio that I listen to today? Raisins, do they belong in cookies? Call us now. Join the conversation.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we're hearing. So here's our pitch. Somebody want old school radio? A couple of guys who still know what they would like to talk about, like to make connections with listeners. You're looking at two of them right now. And you can give up this whole nonsense with the podcast, Matt. We'll be millionaires. Probably not. Come here, Spook. Come here and meet the people. Come on. Wait, you just want treats?
I hope we edit the boring parts out for the audio. I wonder if we're sitting at 90 minutes right now. How much do you think I can get it down to for the audio?
I don't know. Isn't it supposed to be like an hour?
It just goes until we're done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's no limit. There's no limit.
The internet. There's no limit.
Yeah.
Spook, say hi to everybody. Look.
Hi, Spook.
Hey, Spook. There. Yeah. All right.
By the way, I'm taking out the parts with the cat for the audio audience.
What?
No cat.
Well, he meowed. You could hear him at the one part.
We'll qualify that, but you know, when you're holding up the cat to the camera, that's not a very good audio experience.
Well, maybe we shouldn't have done the camera thing, and no one would see me smoking.
But we're live now. Like people can see us. We are live.
Well, no, I get that, but you know,
don't worry. I have people to take care of this.
I'm just saying maybe we shouldn't do it with the video.
Oh no, it's fun. With
Nobody
video.
wants to see this.
The last time we did this, you smoked 4 joints.
But we didn't do video last time.
Right, I can see, but that's why I wanted to do video because I want to see if we get canceled for the joints.
Yeah, well, I only did 2 this time, but they were fat. That was a peanut butter breath I just smoked.
Have you heard from Hugh Dillon?
Nah. We did see the headstones in Kelowna. Was it about 3? Was that before COVID or during?
Or was camp the last?
No, they were here. We saw them in Kelowna, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. Got to hang out with them at a restaurant for a bit. And that was sort of the last personal interaction that we had. I did interview him on my radio show a couple times, but that's some years ago as well. I mean, I left radio in 2019, so.
You watch Yellowstone?
We did watch Yellowstone. Loved it.
How do you think he fits the role?
No, remember he was a cop. He got shot.
Hey, it's easy on the spoilers.
What? Spoilers. Yellowstone spoilers. I don't know. I mean, Hugh's acting has just come along magnificently. There's that show that he's also doing in Kingston.
Yeah.
Right. Mayor of Kingstown.
Yeah. With
Jeremy Renner. I don't have the right channels to see that whole thing. Like we're still on old cable. We got Shaw still.
Okay, so just to review, you just barely figured out how podcasts work, and you have no streaming services.
Yeah, no. Well, we get Prime and Netflix and what's that other one? We got Disney Plus now. But anyway,
all right, you're streaming.
Haven't been able to see Mayor of Kingstown all the way through, but I did see a couple episodes when it first came out, and it also is really spectacular. Hugh Dillon's just amazing. Yeah, such a talent.
Yeah.
And a real success story. Guy who beat heroin addiction and now is a Hollywood producer and actor and doing all kinds of great things with his life. So proud of you. I think I'm allowed to be proud of him because we were there for the dark parts. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we might have received a few notes from the record company. Don't take him out.
Yeah, well, yeah, or keep an eye on him for us kind of thing.
Yeah.
We didn't. One quick funny Hugh Dillon story. It would have been at Okmuff 99, Okanagan Music Fest 99. So I think I got home from Woodstock and we packed and came to Penticton for the music festival that year here. And the Headstones were at it and a bunch of other great bands that we were playing at the time on the Bear. And Hugh and his gigantic bodyguard, the Hercules? I forget the guy's name. And Janice and I, well, mostly we were just with them, stole the security guard's golf cart and toured around the facilities on the stolen golf cart. We have a picture of the four of us. And again, this security guard had to be 6'6" and probably 300 plus pounds. And so there was four of us. And this is the old style golf cart with the one wheel in the front. And like it's a small golf cart. And there was four of us crammed in there. So there's a Polaroid picture of that somewhere of the four of us. Anyway, fun Hugh Dillon story. But
And you're thinking about moving back to Edmonton, looking possibly for a radio job, hire us.
Yeah, it's time to come home, I think. My folks are getting on, and I'd like to be there to help with anything that they need, and also just to pop in on my old man on a Sunday and play some cribbage, or pop in on a Saturday and help mom bake some cookies, or take her shopping, or go see some fun stuff or whatever. I mean, they both have their faculties still, so it would be nice to spend more time with them. When we moved to the Okanagan, 12 years ago, it made more sense then. They were still in their, early 70s and still driving. They'd come out and see us, or we'd go there. And now all these years later, they don't travel nearly as much or as far, and they kind of want to come home. So, yeah, film work or radio work in Edmonton, or you know what, any kind of work. I don't need a fancy job. Anybody want to hire me in Edmonton? I do construction general labor right now. It's killing me, but at least I know how to drill some stuff.
Nice, you're handy. I like that.
Yeah, I'm becoming reasonably handy. Yeah, so yeah, just kind of want to come home and see my fam again. So we'll see how that all pans out.
Weren't you originally from Winnipeg?
Yeah, born there, and then 6 years old when we moved to St. Albert, and then there for most of my life until we came out here. So I consider Edmonton an area my real home.
But at one point, weren't you a Bombers fan?
Yeah, I was 6 years old, and I had a Ralph "Don't Call Me Dieter" Brock jersey, number 5 Bomber jersey when I moved here in
I have one too.
1974. When we moved here, I had a Ralph Brock jersey.
I have a Dieter Brock jersey upstairs.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
It's my only one.
yeah. And you know what? Even and now, 12 years removed from Edmonton, and bless the Eskimos for finally breaking the curse there and winning one at home, or a few at home, and getting some wins this year. I hate to see them struggle like that. I mean, I had a lot of good years cheering for the Eskimos as well, but I've got soft spots for both the Eskimos and the Bombers. Cheer for both those teams, and I just like that the CFL is surviving. I think it's critical to our country that we have a professional football league that people can go to the games and watch the games all the time, even if it's only a 9-team league. I think the CFL is huge important, and I wish they would put teams out on the East Coast.
Well, hopefully the Halifax Schooners come together.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll put it in Moncton. And they had an exhibition game, I think, a few years featuring the Argos and can't remember who else, but it was at my alma mater, Acadia University, in Wolfville, Nova Scotia.
Yeah, I would love to see at least one team, maybe a couple out on the East Coast. I mean, let's face it, the numbers of people that are going to games, you don't have to have a 60,000 seat stadium full every week.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the teams that Montreal was doing it and Toronto was doing it, playing at the university stadiums. You make it the hottest ticket in town for 15 or 20,000 people, and then the place is packed and vibrant. And then there's the television revenue. So, I mean, there's ways to do it that they don't have to have massive stadiums and massive overhead, I don't think.
So Montreal going outside was an accident. It was a conflict they had with the Olympic Stadium. They qualified, I think, for the playoffs, and you can't play your game. We've got U2 this weekend. And so then they had to say, well, I guess we'll play outside. And everybody loved it. and they never went back
Right.
to the. They did go back for a couple playoff games at the Olympic Stadium, but
Well, and then the roof fell in, didn't it?
yeah,
And nobody wanted to go.
no, that thing is still. I can't believe they haven't blown that thing up yet.
Well, isn't it? It's just a pile of rubble now, though, isn't it? Like it's not used for anything anymore, is it?
Sometimes there's truck and tractor pull in there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's still structurally sound enough for vibratory events like that.
it's made of concrete. It's just an
But
absolute.
wasn't it concrete beams that
Mhm.
collapsed from
Yep.
the roof? Yeah,
Yep.
so sure, yeah, good old.
Yeah. And listen, I know the
Old
Eskimos are
concrete.
closing the upper deck at Commonwealth. That's fine.
They are.
Yeah, they're
That's
closed. You won't be able to buy tickets for the upper deck unless there's like a lot of people coming to the game.
But section 00.
What went on
Dun
there?
dun dun! All my friends in OO up there.
Ah,
We used to go sit up there. Even though I had media passes, I could have sat in the cushy press box, which I hated, or down lower because there's lots of
sorry. We've just been informed that we've been canceled because you said Eskimos. The team is the Elk.
Oh, sorry.
The Elks. So
Okay, but last time
did I
went
say that? Which one? I think I said it. Anyway, I'm canceled.
Last time I went, they were the Eskimos. But
Okay.
anyway, for Eskimo games at the time, now Elks.
But also,
You
we
were-
just ruined our audition for
Yeah.
Edmonton radio. Yeah, two old guys calling it by the old name.
Yeah, way to go. The old
Good work.
racist name. Yeah,
Super.
nice. Now we're racists.
Yeah.
Way to go, Mueller.
Didn't we have a thing at the end of the show where we would just list off all our mistakes?
Probably.
Yeah, we did. Like the last
Wasn't it like
break,
the
I
last
think we would just
Half hour.
yeah, like well, we did Jake's joke at the end, but I think we also listed off all of our mistakes.
I did that for a lot of years out here too, by the way, Jake's joke. Even though it's sponsored for a while.
It works.
I used to love telling jokes.
Remember how that started?
No.
Just
Not at all.
we had nothing for the last break. So
We had nothing.
we had nothing for most breaks. But what happened was we would wind down the show. We really didn't have anything at 5:30, and then at 5:45 we would break again. And we said we got to put something in here to keep people listening. So what do we do? And you go, how about a joke? Yeah, a joke. Let's tell a joke. So we told a joke.
Yeah. I think I even still have printed somewhere a file that's like that thick of jokes that listeners sent to me by email, printed out jokes that are in different categories. I've got files and files of paper jokes. I mean, it's easy to find them now online, but that was always fun. I love telling those jokes.
Well, it's late here for me. Thanks for doing this. I got to go to bed.
Yeah. What time is it there?
10:42.
Oh, wow.
I'm usually
What's your,
I'm in bed by 10:30 generally.
okay. What are you wearing to bed these days?
T-shirt,
Yeah.
shorts. Yeah.
Like boxer shorts, or are
Yeah,
you still
boxer
wearing
shorts.
speedo style
No, boxer shorts.
boxer shorts and a t-shirt? You don't get too hot in a t-shirt. Like, do you have a quilt on your bed, or is it just light sheet?
A duvet. Sheet and a duvet.
How many times a night you got to get up and pee?
1,
Yeah. What time's that usually?
3, 2 or 3.
Yeah. Huh.
Why
I
do
found out.
Why do the doctors ask that, by the way?
I found out in recent years that if you drink too much caffeine, and there is a limit, you will have to pee far more times, more frequently, and more urgently. Because it was starting to happen. So I called my doctor. He's like, "How much coffee you drink?" And I'm like, "I don't know, shitload." Try and cut that back to a couple cups a day. And immediately when I cut back, it solved itself. So there's something for a lot of people to consider. There's your big lesson for instead of a joke, a medical fact for you.
Big sign that that Matt and Jake have changed. No longer do they tell jokes. They just give medical advice.
All right. A skeleton walks into a bar. Bartender says, "Hey, skeleton, how's it going? What'll you have?" Skeleton says, "I'll have the usual. I'll have a pint of beer and a mop, please." It's one of my favorite jokes of all time. Or pirate walks into a bar. He's got a ship's wheel sticking out of his zipper. Bartender says, "Hey, pirate, what's up with the ship's wheel sticking out of your zipper there?" Pirate says, "Yar, it's driving me nuts." There. Now let's list off our mistakes and go to bed.
Well, I said Eskimos. That was not good.
Yeah, no, I swore probably 8 or 9 times, and really I should keep it to 1 or 2 for it to be effective. Like a coach kicking a garbage can every day doesn't work anymore.
You smoke drugs, but that's legal now. So we're
Medicine.
medicine, correct? Took medicine. We also gave medical advice without offering up a disclaimer.
Huh. Well, I do want to say that medicine in the form of Rick Simpson oil saved my life last time I had cancer 5 years ago. I did it naturally with medicine that I made myself from marijuana.
I love
Rick
that.
Simpson oil. Look it up.
Rick Simpson oil.
I have great regard for that plant.
Excellent.
So don't call it drugs. It's medicine.
Thanks for doing this, bud.
Great seeing you, buddy.
Good seeing you.
Let's do it without the video next time, though.